So, if you're watching this, you'll notice that again we have switched around the angles, haven't we? And,
yeah, you're
and
not
changed some
colourblind.
things.
It's gone from blue to pink.
Yeah, and I feel like we're super bright for once as well. Like we've changed room. We're now in a different room in Tom's house. So our background's the same. We pretty much just flipped it.
Pretty much, yeah. Like you're not in some sort of weird time continuum. Like the room that you can see through the doors in the middle of us, this is going to be irrelevant to anyone that's just listening, by the way, and not on thing. They're just going to get a
on YouTube and watch
free
it.
audio tour of my house. But yeah, we've switched the rooms around. So the room that we were in used to be my dining room, which is now our lounge, and we're now sat in the new dining room. And because this podcast has always been sold as just me and Chris having a chat from my dining room, then we had to move to the new dining room.
Move to the new dining room, yeah, exactly. We couldn't force it, could we? So
that's it. And don't worry,
actually...
the branding's not going to turn pink now that we've changed rooms as well. We've gone from blue to pink. So.
Well, it should do. You got your trip can
I've got my pink can, that's it.
And for audio listeners, hello to you as well, because all of that was probably kind of pointless to you. But yeah, it feels like it's been a while since we recorded. Our last episode was with Adam, which I thought was really strong, and I really loved having a chat with him. And yeah, it was just nice to talk about things a little bit outside of like the marketing, the videography, the photography, and that kind of thing, and get into the people behind the businesses, which I think is quite a nice like little touch that we can add to the podcast.
Yeah, like we always said, and I'm sure we touched on it at the start of that episode, is that when we started this podcast, we wanted it to be a mixture of real conversations, helpful conversations, and yeah, kind of a mixture of everything. It was never going to be just a purely education podcast. It was an insight into our businesses, the way that we do things. And then obviously the joy of adding guests is to see the things that go on in their lives as well as the way they run their businesses. And I think that I'm still really grateful for Adam for sharing all of that with us, being kind of as honest as he was with us. But also, if you're not someone that's interested or wanting or needing to adopt, the way that there was a lot of lessons in that and kind of juggling family life, wasn't there? And kind of the way that he runs his business now that he has, you know, kind of children to contend with, or to kind of, or, you know, something that he wants to spend his time with more than in his office. Yeah,
and not a lot. I think that's a thing that's not spoken about too much, because I know that there's a lot of people, as much as I don't frequent Instagram a lot, there are people who I follow and who I like to see their stories, who I'm like, you've got 3 kids. How are you so busy and doing so much? Like, how are you balancing all of this? Or you've got this going on, and everyone's got their own stuff going on. So it's really nice when someone has openness about how they're dealing with, whether it's the workload or things going on in their personal life. And Adam was quite open about having all of his work edited. And just flat out come out and said it. It wasn't, you know, and there's plenty of that we've spoken about it before, like the taboo around getting stuff edited and things like that. But if you look at someone and you're like, oh my god, they're so busy, they're doing this, that, and the other, and like they might not be telling you that they're getting something edited, or they've hired someone to do this or whatever it is, when actually like that is the reality of the situation.
And that was something that he said, wasn't it, at the start of the episode as well, is that if people were just more honest, I think a lot of that sort of imposter syndrome that exists, mainly fueled by social media, would get broken down. You know, I think he kind of put it that you talk about, oh, this person always seems to be on holiday, or they live in a really big house, but you don't know that actually maybe they're not earning £500,000 from their wedding industry. They've got a partner that's got a really good job, or they've got a family that have helped them or whatever. And I think, you know, though that's kind of personal kind of, you know, kind of smoke and mirrors, there's a lot of that in business as well, I think. And if I know it's hard, obviously, when a lot of us our stories and stuff are client facing, that you don't want to kind of, you know, that mystique sometimes can be good. But I think kind of on podcasts like this, or in kind of Facebook groups which are solely for industry people, a little bit of honesty like that, rather than people kind of be adding that layer of mystery to other suppliers, would make us all feel a lot better mentally, and probably, you know, level up a lot quicker.
Yeah, and I think we're working our way towards that, especially with the videography community growing with Coda and that wedding videography summit and things like that, and obviously lots of podcasts coming out, and I think we're moving towards the honesty section of things. But I think obviously to be taken with a pinch of salt, because I think that not everyone's going to say everything on a podcast. But yeah, I think it was definitely helpful to hear how someone who, you know, is going through a lot or has been through a lot is balancing their workload. And it's good to chat to Adam as well.
Yeah, Adam was really nice. What a lovely guy again as well. From us that are kind of based right down on the south coast as well, we seem to kind of be following a trend that most of our guests are more north than here. I don't want to say northern, because I'm going to get into this again, where some of them would argue they're Midlands based.
Adam's going to be.
But definitely we are. They're more north than us. So it's nice to kind of get into those conversations with people that we couldn't just meet down the road for a coffee. I think that's really nice to kind of be able to kind of let the conversation span the country as well as we're not just having our mates on, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. And I'm kind of thinking about how many guests we've had now, but it's been really cool to have such a big variety of guests from some of them have been people that we know before. Some of them have been, we had Damien from the awards, and it's just been a nice a range of guests, given that we never really set out intending to get lots of guests on. I feel like and they've obviously been some of our best episodes as well.
Yeah.
So,
and I think some of the people as well are kind of people that we've kind of found along the way.
Yeah.
Like obviously I bumped into Adam, we saw him at the photo show, that led to that episode. Like he didn't know that our podcast existed until we shouted him out before that. Like when we had the episode with Sophie coming out of the summit last year, obviously we'd never even spoken to Sophie from Loyal Studio at all.
Yeah.
And then again, due to an hour kind of off-pod episode, in the doorway of Southampton Airport, led to then that being, and that was a really good episode as well. So I kind of think that, rather than having a scheduled guest, it's nice to kind of have people that have approached us to come on, us kind of approaching them, and it's always been quite a sort of natural progression, which I think is really good, because I kind of that's how the heart of this podcast kind of started.
Yeah, we just sort of stumble upon people who are like, you'd be cool on the podcast, and it's never really it's never us two sat in a room being like, okay, here's our list of the next guest that we're going to ask to be on, this person would be great for views, that kind of thing.
And I think,
it's more just we met this cool person the other day, do you reckon they'd be good on the pod? Yeah, go on, let's ask them and see what happens. So
and again I say at the end of every episode, if you're a cool person, or you just think you don't have to have a big following, or whatever, as long as you think you've got something to say and you could offer an interesting chat to us, then approach us and come on the pod.
Exactly that. And talking about that, and talking about the community and summits and things like that, I know that the Wedding Videography Summit was quite recently as well. We went to that last year. I unfortunately missed it this year. I've got a lot going on personally, and they couldn't really work out with childcare and
also,
weddings
again,
and things
it's
like
not near
that.
us,
So it's kind of
obviously
sad.
last
It's
year
very
we managed
far,
to make it work, and between it's not just a one-day summit for us, is it? It's flights up and then getting back and the rest of it. So
if it's down the road, I've gone, because I really wanted to go. But there was just a lot of reasons why I couldn't make it. I'm glad I couldn't. It looks great again this year. The speakers look good, and a lot of the feedback that I've had from people was I absolutely loved it. A lot of people who went this year have booked their tickets for next year already.
That's really good to see.
Which is a similar thing that what happens with Coda is you go there and you become part of this thing. And you're like, I enjoyed it so much, and then the tickets come out, and you're like, yeah, I'm booked to next year. It's a staple.
Yeah, and I think it's a huge compliment, isn't it? Particularly to Danny and Jace for the summit, or for anyone that puts on an event like that, to have people then that will give you money when there's no lineup announced. Obviously, I know for those guys, they announce the lineup, don't they, normally on stage at the end of the last one, or if next year was the same as the year that we went to, they announced, obviously, the lineup. Yeah. But a lot of times, it's not a full lineup, or it's not a this, and it's almost, you put trust in them that, yes, it's going to be a good event, or the community they've built is good enough that, I want to be a part of that, regardless if I'm just going for this one speaker. Yeah.
Or even if people go for the speakers, I think, I don't claim to know it all, but I think the value that I get from those sort of meetups is chatting to other people and just getting those really in-depth conversations, which I think, there's only so much that a half an hour talk can do. And it's great to see the people that you look up to, or people that are absolutely smashing it in the industry do talks on maybe niche subjects or things like that, and you can walk away with a notepad full of really interesting things. But I think what doesn't go in the notepad, which is your conversations with people throughout the day, is sometimes what sparks that, actually this person said something which is really cool and resonates. And that one-to-one time with other videographers and other photographers and that kind of thing is really super inspirational, and that's kind of why we do this podcast. But I was unfortunately not able to make that. But talking about those kind of one-to-one interactions, you've also went to a retreat recently.
It's wild. It's wild. It's weird. I obviously spoke about before when we did our last catch up that I was heading off to Weird Retreat, the very first Weird Retreat as well, which happened at the end of March. Which now seems like an alarmingly long time ago, but it's not particularly.
For those that haven't seen it, it's weird spelt WYRD.
RD, so it's the old kind of old English spelling of weird. And I think I could probably do a whole podcast on that alone. The people that I met while I was there, I knew a couple of people going in, and again we'd had a little WhatsApp group leading up, but I don't think any of us that went could have even thought that it would turn into what it did. I think we all bonded super quickly. It got emotional very quickly, I think, in times, but the fact that I've never been to a retreat before, but to go in something where you kind of lived in it for the whole time. And like on the first night, rocking up after sort of a 4 or 5 hour drive, and there being nothing on apart from people just kind of hanging out in the kitchen and grabbing a drink and kind of getting to know each other. And then like the next day to like swimming in the river, and then obviously there were speakers, and then on the third day taking each other's portraits, and like there was a whole lot of things. Like you kind of really felt that you really kind of immersed yourself in it for that good 2 or 3 days. And I think all of us found out as much about ourselves as we did each other. And I know the tickets for that are just going to come out again in the next coming weeks. And from the conversations that I've had with Luke who put it on, I know half of them have already gone already, and that's mostly to people that were there last time, again, with no lineup and no whatever going, I need this in my calendar.
But you're getting those deep conversations with people. You said they were like fireside chats and...
Yeah, so like Igor was one of the speakers that we had, and I think if you'd said to me in the vote, someone's talk's gonna be after dinner in the evening, I'd have been, that maybe seems a bit late. But like where you'd kind of been in the flow all day, honestly, time seemed to flow on those full days. And to come back into like the lounge after dinner, and there was like Igor on his knees stoking the fire, like kind of the room was kind of like warm and like smoky and cozy, like the projection was on the screen. He put this really cool like ambient kind of like soundscape music on while he was talking, and it was like, this is how I want to learn. Like I want to learn sat on a sofa, cross-legged with a belly full of amazing food. Someone whose work I really love, and just it was so much nicer than just being in a really big theatre of stuff. And then like him kind of going, I'm done now. We all clap. He comes and sits on the sofa with us, and then to kind of spend the next hour or two after that, just being able to talk amongst yourselves about what was just said, or directly ask the speakers, and to have that like 4 times throughout the whole retreat. And then, that's nice, kind of all the other stuff that went round when you put 16, photographers in the same house was nuts. Yeah.
And we also did something quite similar. And I mean, I know a lot of other wedding suppliers who are close to this kind of thing, but I think it's really nice to have, again, like someone like me and you will sit here, and you only hear an hour of the conversation or 2 hours of the conversation, right? But we'll be here for 6-7 hours sometimes, having a chat about things and talking things over and whatever, about literally everything, right? But we recently had a meet up with a couple of videographers and a couple of friends, basically, didn't we?
Yes.
And sat down and went through each other's work and our websites and like gave honest feedback in a closed room, and it just felt like really nice to have that level of support from people around you, rather than trying to be like one up everybody sort of thing.
And I think it only works, with the certain you've got. I think it's got to be people that you kind of know to a degree. There's taking criticism from a stranger, which in some ways is lovely, particularly if you respect their work or their opinion. But I think that the 4 of us kind of know each other all really well, isn't it? The people that we sat with, and so that there's the advice they're giving you comes from genuinely a good place of wanting to help you level up. And the fact that we're all in similar markets, probably sometimes like, probably get inquiries from the same couples as well. But to know that they're not trying to say that to you to kind of sabotage or whatever. Yeah. And also, I think you take some things coming from sort of a mate or someone that you kind of do value their opinion a little bit softer maybe than sometimes getting your work torn apart if you went to like a critique or whatever. But just to have that day, didn't we? We went up to Sean's and sat on the sofa, put some films on the telly. We poured through some of my galleries, looked at each other's websites. And I think sometimes it's also kind of looking at each other. People that are in similar markets and at similar prices to you can be a far better comparison sometimes than seeing someone's work who is a much more elevated version of kind of your market. It's hard to kind of harness that back sometimes. So it was a really useful exercise, and I urge any of you guys that have kind of small peer groups to do it.
Like you say, it's good to do it with friends. I feel more comfortable giving feedback to friends as well, especially when it's like, this is a safe room, feedback is accepted and requested. It's
so scary though,
because it definitely is. But we've done the workshops where we've given feedback on people's websites. Like people have paid us to give feedback. That's fine. They're expecting it, right? There are times where I know there are times where I'll be sat with a photographer during the dinner or the wedding breakfast, and they'll be like, I need to do like this, or I'm not getting the bookings and that kind of thing. I know what their website looks like. I know their Instagram's suffering, but I don't want to give them unsolicited feedback.
Especially on a wedding day, because you're there as kind of equals, aren't you? They're not there to almost learn, but at the same time, because I think maybe the fact that we do this podcast and it's not just a job. You genuinely want to help people and see people level up. It's hard not to go, hey, just do this.
But if you did this.
It's as easy as that. And a lot of it sometimes it's stuff that you probably already know. You just need someone as well that kind of to point it out. And
Yeah.
just be brave.
Yeah,
just do
exactly,
the thing.
yeah.
Like, but yeah, it is still scary, I think. And sometimes it can be scary kind of opening up. Although that your website is readily available to anyone that wants to view it, when you've got someone, you know, who's a pal and whose work you really like kind of poring over the nitty gritty of it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think I've read, you know, I've been on your website like hundreds of times, but I'm not sure that I've dived into the copy quite as deeply as I had until you asked me to review it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
to kind of have
That's
that kind of next level of scrutiny was, a really good thing to do. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
All right. So for this episode, we're going to do something a little bit different, aren't we?
Yeah, when you pitch this idea, I think it leads on from the conversation we've just had, isn't it? Is that we are going to kind of do some brutally honest answers to each other.
Yeah. So we know each other quite well, and know our businesses. I feel like I know your business like the back of my hand, and I could sell you to any of your couples at this point. And also I know sort of like your beliefs and the way that you operate and that kind of thing. And I think you do about me as well. So I think that it was quite a nice idea for us to go in with we've made our own notes and questions for each other.
Yes.
Which we actually don't know about. So my questions for Tom doesn't know I'm going to ask them. Tom's questions for me, I don't know what questions he's written.
Yeah, so full transparency, normally we make show notes, don't we? We have
Yeah.
a saved kind of note thing where we both add to our notes for the episode, and then we can kind of see each other's so we don't double up too much.
Yeah.
But yeah, for these we've made separate notes, so I have no idea what you're going to ask me, and I have no idea what I'm going to ask you. But again, you pitched the idea, didn't you, in a voice note, and then I was like, okay, so I'm hoping that I've pitched my questions in a similar tact to yours. Some of them are probably marginally more about you, and some are marginally more about the industry.
Yeah, same. Yeah,
good.
Yeah.
So that's kind of good, and we're going to see how long they get as to how many we get through of each.
Okay.
But I'm really excited.
All right, let's start then. Let's go with the first question. So I'll do a question for you.
Okay.
And yeah, like you said, some of these are more industry based, and some of them are very much directed at your style and your way of working and your opinion on it. So I'll start with the question. One of the questions I've wanted to. I think I pitched this as an episode, but we never ended up doing it. So I put: do you think that documentary photography in its purest form is actually just laziness and not wanting to direct the couple, or not knowing how to direct the couple, or is it really just an art in itself, or are there people that do it because they're lazy and people that do it because they genuinely think it's an art?
Yes, I think you've answered your own question and agree. I think documentary is a fantastic excuse for I don't want to pose people.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people starting out, it's really easy to just go, it's a default, isn't it? When you begin in the industry, just be natural.
Yeah.
Because you don't really know how to behave. And I think at that level of documentary, that is the purest lazy form of documentary, hiding in the bushes with the 70 to 200, not getting involved with anybody. But then I'm not sure that I even call that documentary. That's just, spying on people with a long lens, isn't it?
Yeah.
But then documentary as an art form, I think traditionally is rooted in kind of street photography, or that kind of element of being close, where you're very visible in it. Like if you've watched any of those Instagram videos of how street photographers work with a 28mm lens and they just don't care and just
right up in
people's faces, I think that is what kind of pure documentary from like an art photography form is.
Okay.
And I think that is a skill.
Yeah.
You've got to be a certain type of person to do that stuff, to see that way, and to do it well. I think you've probably got to care in some ways a little bit less about the people as humans, to almost be uncomfortably close and do the rest of it. And I think that there's an art form to that. I think if you look at stuff like Martin Parr's work and stuff like that, there's a lot of people that try to do that style at weddings, and only a few people do it well. And I think the barrier that I come to with that level of documentary is that I would call pure documentary, is that that's not lazy, but I don't almost think it's flattering.
Okay.
Like if you look at photography in a book, and I'm going to use Martin Parr's work because I think it's a fine example, it's probably something that most people are kind of familiar with, is that a lot of the people in his work maybe wouldn't want that photo of themselves.
Yeah.
It's incredibly honest, it's incredibly bearing, but it's not always flattering.
What just came to my mind is, if you think, should I be taking this photo, you probably should.
Yeah,
because there's a lot of times where I've seen like people, we went to a wedding where a family member very recently passed away, and there was a lot of tears and very deep moments, and you are pointing a camera at them and capturing that, but that's pure documentary.
Yeah, and if you feel uncomfortable taking it, I think you have to have that moral question in your head of, should I be taking this? But for you as a photographer or as an image maker, selfishly, you can go, this is great, this is such a good photo.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, we're working for the people in those photographs,
Yeah.
which I think is the one catalyst in wedding photography, which separates lots of other forms of photography.
Yeah.
Is that if I was out in the street and I saw someone with a really cool outfit on doing something really stupid, I could, if I had that right person to get really close and was put the camera in their face and get this really cool photo, which might belong in a book or a gallery, and go, oh, this is my work, it's stunning.
Yeah.
But if you delivered that photo back to someone and that's like 20 mil in Nan's face, you know, and whatever,
Yeah.
they might be horrible. Why did you? Why
have you taken
given
that
us
of
this?
me?
Oh, is this going to be the lasting impression of this?
Yeah.
So I think, in answer to your question, I think documentary on a surface level is I think a lot of people that do it for the wrong, are almost doing documentary as an easy way to go, oh, I don't have to pose anything. But I think also good documentary is so much more than just not talking to the couple.
Yeah.
It's about seeing light. It's about layering, kind of, you know, being in the right place. There's still got to be in good, pure documentary, kind of good moment, good light, good composition, which standing at the corner of a room with a 200 mil while someone is sipping their champagne or whatever.
All you've done is like
still,
zoomed in and
still
got
feels so distant.
Yeah.
You still feel so far removed from the action. So I would say that that's not necessarily good documentary.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think staged documentary is in the same vein, isn't it? To kind of to be amongst people, then know that you're there, but be comfortable with you making what you're making. That I think is, or maybe that's what I always strive for.
I definitely think it's a skill. I definitely think you can, perhaps not couples, but we can definitely tell when someone's documentary relaxed just because they can't be asked to pose.
Definitely.
Or whether they're actually documentary because they're genuinely good at capturing the things that people wouldn't think about and the story moments.
And I think that's it. And I like to think as well that most of my couples that come to me go, oh, we're really awkward. You know, we're really awkward being photographed, or the idea of posing wouldn't get out of them what posing should. Do you know what I mean? To make a heightened, elevated version of themselves. But if you can do that naturally because you catch them in a moment of happiness, they maybe then you do capture them how they want to be captured because the fear of the camera has been removed.
Yeah.
But at the same time, that they know that you're there, they've hired you, that you're not in the bushes with your 200 mil. But at the same time, you're not also at the same time following them into the loo, with the 20 mil lens, because that'd make a great shot of the dress being everywhere as they try and straddle the toilet.
Yeah.
There's a style for that. I'm sure there must be some people that want that, because there are some documentary or pure documentary photographers that do that style and still manage to fill their calendar every year.
Yeah.
But for me, I think there comes that level of, and again, you see it in pure documentary a lot, that moral question of, am I making this for myself because it's a great photo? But is it kind of almost exploiting human nature of the people that are in the work?
Yeah.
And when it's their work to remember their day, that's where that line of documentary falters for me in the photographer versus the person who's providing a service.
Yeah, because I guess true, pure documentary, let's say you've got like a bride who's very stressed in the morning. Like, you should be capturing the fact that she's stressed, or if something's in the wrong place and has to be moved or whatever, like you're capturing people moving it, but that shouldn't end up in their gallery because that's not how they would like to remember.
As an example of this, I had a wedding. It was probably 7-8 years ago. We were at a prep, house, getting ready in the morning, like an Airbnb type thing to go off to the church.
Yeah,
like I literally arrived with, the McDonald's delivery man or whatever, dropping off here. The bridesmaids were there. And I thought, and again, they were pretty distant to the bride. They didn't seem that close considering they were bridesmaids. And like her hair maybe didn't go the way she wanted it to. Time was getting on. There was quite a journey from this house to the church because it was nearer the venue than it was to like the ceremony. And she's, bless her, started to get a little bit anxious, a little bit panicky. And all these bridesmaids were just like, oh, I can't deal with this, I need to get ready, and just left her. And having pretty much like a, like hyperventilating sort of panic attack. And mum was there with the maid of honour and took her out to the garden and were like, don't matter about time.
Yeah.
And literally she was sat out there with the McDonald's bag.
Yeah.
The brown bag, the McDonald's coming to breathing into it, in and out, to kind of calm her breathing down.
Yeah.
And I'm looking through the window at this happening going, this is such a great picture.
That is a picture.
This is such a great picture.
Yeah.
Like mum's there hugging her, like the maid of honour's like holding her knee as she's sat on this like white child. Yeah, she's there, breathing in and out of the McDonald's bag. And I didn't take the photo. I looked at it and I had this moral thing in my head going, that photo for me is pure documentary. Yeah. It deserves to be in a gallery. But this is going to be the last thing about her wedding day she wants to remember.
Yeah.
She wants to get in her dress, feel amazing.
Yeah.
I think seeing a dad cry, and maybe he doesn't love the photo of him crying, but the daughter would love that he got emotional over her, those things, is very different to something like that. Mm-hmm. And for me, that's one of the things that I always come back to. And it's probably one of the first moments where, as a photographer or as a documentarian or a photojournalist, if I was in the street going, this is the photo I need to take.
Yeah.
But when knowing I couldn't bring myself to put that in that bride's gallery.
So it's almost
the difference between documentary.
It's positive documentary, isn't it?
I think so. Yeah,
you're avoiding anything that could make them look like they didn't enjoy their day.
Seeing people get emotional. Again, I do add funny things to my galleries.
Yeah.
There's always humour, particularly with kids doing funny things or drunk adults or whatever. Like those elements are there, but not at the point where they almost become exploitative. I definitely, as a photographer, and I'm sure that anybody who's a photographer doing this had got them, where you get an odd photo where it's even someone in the background is pulling the worst face, or they're in the middle of taking on food, their eyes are rolling somewhere.
Yeah.
People on the dance floor. I've seen far more of some guests than I want to on the dance floor, with things popping out of, outfits and the rest of it.
Yeah.
I could easily deliver that stuff, and it would be funny. It would get but they're always laughing at someone.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So I think that's half your responsibility as a photographer, is to go, as long as someone would find this funny. And I've even had a couple of instances, I think, in the past where I've even said to couples, look, I've got this image. Like, do you think this person would take this well?
Yeah.
If they will, I'll include it.
Yeah.
But if you know them, they're your pal. If you don't think that they will, I'm not going to do that to them.
Yeah.
And I'll delete it.
I very recently had this last summer. It was a really sunny day at a barn near us, and there was this bald bloke who had got a sunburn on his head, and he had this big old ice pack, and he was holding it to his head and just rubbing it, and he was sat on the table on his own, next to his mate, just rubbing his head, and they were in silence. His mate was sat next to him, like, laughing silently, and I took a video of it, and like, when I was making the film, I was like, I don't know whether I should put this in, because this guy's clearly in pain with his sunburn. He's looking really uncomfortable, but it is funny, and his mate sat next to him laughing. So I sent just like a video of the clip to the couple and was like, is this something that he would find funny? And she come back immediately, like, we're on a holiday with him now. He's absolutely creasing up.
Yeah.
Put it in.
I think that's it, isn't it? Is you got to remember is that, and we had a very similar conversation with Adam when it comes to talking about kids on the grid, is that we're dealing with people. We're booked by the couple.
Yeah.
But we don't know the 80, 90, 100 people that are in front of us. And some people love to laugh at themselves. There's plenty of stupid photos of me, and I go, oh, it's fine.
Yeah.
But particularly when you're dealing with, some people that might be self-conscious about themselves, or then you feel that you're the one exploiting something about them to make other people laugh, that kind of doesn't sit quite well. And I think it's easier to make that call when it is the bride and groom.
Yeah.
Because you kind of know them from the journey through. But if it's just a random guest or someone that you don't know, it becomes more difficult, doesn't it? And I've just thought of another kind of thing that's popped into my head as well. And I had another wedding probably really early in my career. And that's the time that I did deliver something in, and they asked me to delete it, which made me think that again as well. So I was doing a wedding at Burley Manor. Yeah. So, when you kind of stand, I was doing group photos out on like the front piece with the deer park in the background. Yeah. So I took a picture of the bride, the groom, the best man, who was his brother, and the best man, so his sister-in-law basically stood. And just as we were there to take the photo, or I went to take this group photo, the wind blew, and it blew the sister-in-law's dress completely over her head.
Yeah, yeah.
She's there like full, like thong, like tights, whatever. Yeah. And her dress is literally over perfectly, like as it would be down, but up. Yeah. So you can't see her head. You can just see these legs,
which
and
is
an upside
funny,
down skirt.
But it's not.
And I obviously took the photo before the bride, the groom, or the brother could react. So they're still just smiling at the camera, and it just looks like this upside down lady with this pair of legs is on the end. Yeah. And at the time, again, probably really early in, I was like, oh, this is brilliant. This is so good. And I delivered it in the gallery.
Yeah.
And they came back and were like, oh, we're just looking through the gallery now. Is like an online gallery. Is there any way that you can take this photo out? Yeah. Because like, before we show it to like our family and friends, because like, whilst we think it's brilliant, she will be mortified that this is going to get seen by other people. And it was before I wasn't using software where they could hide stuff at the time. So in PicTime,
they can do that,
the couple can hide certain photos if they don't want others to see them. Yeah. So I was like, yeah, sure. Again, I don't want to upset anybody. They saw it. They thought it was brilliant. And so at that point, I was like, so maybe there is a line. Yeah. What I thought at that time was funny, she might have been mortified that much of herself was on display
I can understand
and going to be seen by her family.
I had to do the similar thing for the Wedding Industry Awards. The first time that we like ran down the aisle to get the highly commended award or whatever it was. I was with Kate, and she had like a slit in her dress, and she was running down, and it like she was full flashing.
Yeah.
And the photographer put it in the gallery, and it's like that's not even funny in my opinion.
Yes.
But it's like, and then, not to make it matters worse, they used that as the cover photo for the whole gallery.
Yeah, which is not. Yeah.
And then Kate was like, "Can you get them to remove it?" So I had to message them
because instantly then she feels
really
really exposed and if you think, okay, that's something, again, that's very public. But even then, if you're like, I don't know, like her, a sister-in-law, that you know then that all of your husband's families, aunties, uncles, brother have seen this picture of you basically in your underwear.
Yeah.
Like, so again, maybe that's a really long-winded answer for a first question.
For the couple, between the couple and her, it's a funny joke, but between everybody who's going to look at that, it's like, And
I think, again, if that's the bride in the morning, she can make that decision then, which is half the reason that I love the pick time thing now with people. People can show what they get to see, and I make it very clear that those galleries are private and you have the ability to go through and hide. And it always fascinates me when I go back and look and see what some couples do make really quite a heavy edit to then show their guests, and some really don't care. And I think that's the prime example. There's not almost really anywhere that you can pitch it. You've just got to do what feels right. And I know this ends up in a different conversation as to what you asked me, but I think that's always the issue with documentary, isn't it? Is you need to kind of have, I think, particularly as a wedding photographer that deals with people's real feelings and emotions, that moral compass has to lie somewhere. Which pure documentary almost doesn't, which is why I wonder
there is a filter.
How much in weddings it belongs. But I definitely think that there is so many people, and particularly people that begin in photography, that just fall back on the 70 to 200 and go, just be you, and I'll just capture it. And that's
just not confident around people, especially videographers. Just like, and
I probably was that guy when I began. I wasn't brave enough to be in the middle of the action with a 35mm, and it comes with time.
I think that's why you get the thing that you talk about a lot, which is natural with a documentary. Editorial with a documentary or whatever. And I think a lot of that comes from, specifically with videographers, probably people that are not comfortable posing the couple. So when they've got a photographer who's great at posing the couple, they become editorial. But when they haven't, they're like, I'm documentary now, I'll just say in the background. So, and
it's hard, isn't it, to come to that balance. So
cool.
I think hopefully that answers.
I like talking about that. It's good.
The question. I've got to pick one now. Okay, let's start with this one. This is the first one that I wrote. Honestly, how much of a threat do you think content creators are to established videographers? So I'm not talking about videographers in the luxury end. I'm not talking about people that are just beginning, because I think they are far more of a threat to people at the very, very budget end. But in kind of that middle, people that have been videographers for a while, charging a reasonable amount of money and doing good weddings, how much business do you honestly think they're losing to content creators?
So in the present day, I think it's probably more of a threat than you think, or than most people are making out. I think it's easy to say that in the lower sort of price brackets, where maybe the quality of the work isn't like top notch or the experience isn't there and that kind of thing, someone might go, well, you're £1,000, I can get a content creator for a very good content creator for 800 quid. So I'd much rather get a very good person with lots of experience than you for £1,000 who might make me a good video because that's what on the front of your page, but you've got no other portfolio work, right? But I think if you look at it another way, until content creators came along, there was no, maybe obviously like hybrid photography, that kind of thing, but there was no way to get video back from your wedding day that was shot by someone that's not your guest, rather than get like a guest to do it. There was no way to get video back from your wedding day. So videographers became this thing of like, oh, okay, well, all I'm going to get is these still images. I actually want some video content of my weddings. And then over time, wedding videography has gone from, uncle with a camcorder capturing very natural things in a very natural way to, okay, we have to polish everything now and we have to edit it to music and make everything look this and use everything in the same key and whatever. And I think that's opened the door for content creators to come in and go, well, we're what wedding videography was when, like, back then. But also
they're almost a hired uncle with the camcorder, aren't they?
Exactly.
And again, you think fondly of those kind of like moments, because again, they're not polished. So do you think almost then, maybe a cheeky second kind of question to that then, is that, do you think in some ways that the way that videography has moved, it's opened up for content creators?
Yeah, definitely.
Like if you had like documentary videographers and then more, but like, because even though you say you're documentary, there's still there's still music and it's more polished. I don't know of anybody who's out there just basically making keepsake edit style videos. So it's almost that quantity and the like informal nature of a content creator.
Yeah, I've said this on the pod before. I think videography moving towards the more like polished, like within specific minutes, that kind of thing, has led to the introduction of content creators or helped their success. Because you think about it, like if I get, let's say there's a lovely like father of the bride reaction in the morning.
Yeah.
He comes in, walks in, he stops and he's like, "Oh, you look beautiful." And then like they stop there for a minute and she's like wiping a tear off his eye. And then he says, I can't like, I've been waiting for this moment or something. And then, then they go in for a hug and then mum comes in and hugs as well. That's like 20, 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Which I wouldn't put in. Like as much as that moment is incredible, that would break up.
Yeah, if you're making a 6-minute
film.
Yeah.
And so you get that like as a videographer, you're constantly facing, I don't know if it's just me, you're constantly facing the thing between, this is a really nice 30-second moment, but it really ruins my flow of the film. And you're going to sit there, you notice each clip is moving with the music, and then suddenly this really nice moment plays out and you're like, oh, okay, well, we're back. We're into a documentary or a keepsake edit section of it. Whereas, so I do think that someone looking at a $2,500, $3,000, whatever videographer might be looking at that videographer because they think they want some video content from their wedding day. They're not looking at that videographer because they want a 10 to 12 minute film that's nicely edited. They just want that father of the bride reaction on their phone that they can look back at.
So do you think in some ways then, I just had this kind of epiphany moment whilst you've been talking through this, is that almost what videographers are perceived to do and what content creators are perceived to do actually is like kind of the opposite. Like people think, oh, you're a videographer, you're there all day. Where actually the thing that you output is this really kind of curated film where you film loads. Where people think that, content creators only exist because people want it for social media. Yeah. But actually the highlight clip that they post on social media, like the reel, almost like you guys make, isn't the value in the content creator at all. It's the value is in the big stuff, and almost like in that Dropbox of 300 clips is where the real value in a concrete content creator lies. But most of them only market with vertical highlight versions of what you make. Yeah. So maybe that's where it's like a marketing issue with the difference between a videographer and a content creator. In the same way that you make all of that stuff, but because of expectation or whatever, it gets curated down. Yeah. That kind of people probably want that. They want the quality of you're doing it, but almost the volume of the content creator. Yeah, they might think, oh, this is too polished, or they're trying to make things look a certain way. Whereas they know by hiring a content creator, they're getting their files in a Dropbox. Nothing like they might get a highlights film, but like nothing's going to be made to look a certain way. It's coming off a phone, which everyone's used to the grading and everything of a phone, and is generally quite happy with it. I mean, phones are designed to make everybody happy with the grading and again, like the dynamic range on a phone can sometimes really frustrate when you can be in a really challenging lighting situation at a wedding and are struggling to kind of get a file which you can level out, and someone wanders along next to you and goes their phone and go, well, it's great, and you're like, well, because the phone's doing a certain amount of things for you. And again, I don't want to get into, it's not a tech problem, that's not the question I asked, but I just find it quite interesting in that almost social media or people's short attention spans has led videographers to make more polished things and shorter things. Yeah. Where now they're hiring content creators which appear to have only come out for social media, where the value in them is actually the long things. So maybe why isn't there just videographers making long things? And that's kind of the best of both. But
this is why I'm not due to work. As far as I know, I'm not due to work for content creator this year at all. But when you look at deeply into what I offer, keepsake edit, that's all of your footage, right?
Yeah. So essentially,
it gets rid of that.
The clips from the content creator is your keepsake edit, really.
Home video camcorder.
Yeah.
So you get the natural stuff like that your guests can record as well. Like it looks like, because content creators often market themselves as another guest on their wedding day, right? And I also have a content package now, which is only a couple of £100, but the reason it's there is sort of to deter people, or sort of to say that, look, you can have
immediacy,
if you want the Instagram immediacy, then you can have that. But if you like the Dropbox that you get with your content creator, you can have my keepsake edit instead, and you get that but professionally, if you know what I mean. So all those little things add together towards me not working with a content creator at all. So yes, I do think they're more of a threat to experienced people, because people are moving back to analog, they're moving back to completely natural and don't make me look like something I'm not, but also think there are things that videographers can do to make sure that they're not put in the same bucket.
That's quite interesting, isn't it? It's almost to say in the end that, and I know we've done plenty of share of talking about content creators, but it's almost like the content creators themselves aren't the problem. It's almost, the marketing of videographers or the things that they do or the lack of the amount of what they take versus what they deliver could almost solve that issue.
Yeah.
But I just find it really interesting. Almost, they're not something that's going away. I'm only seeing more. I'm down to work with a couple this year, but no more or less than I was last year.
Yeah.
And it really surprised me when you had a few occasions last year where you were talking of 2 photographers, 2 videographers, and a content creator on the day. That seeming really overkill.
I think it is a marketing issue.
But again, maybe in your case, because you've done such a good job of, to your couples marketing the keepsake or particularly the camcorder, because even on a day that if you were flying solo and didn't have a second with you, the chances are once you hand the camcorder over, a lot of times, if you're off with the couple, that's being passed around at drinks. So it almost is, the camera becomes a different viewpoint in itself, which 100%. Is what the content creator is and stuff like that. So
if you deeply look into why people are booking content creators, you could probably integrate things into your films and your packages that mean that person doesn't need to book a content creator or is quite happy getting their 10 to 12 minute film plus all the stuff they probably would have liked from a content creator, like your keepsake edit or that kind of thing.
So in some ways then content creators aren't a threat to videographers at all. Videographers are a threat to themselves in marketing badly.
The market, well, this is the thing, right? I think this is probably going off on a little bit of a tangent, but I've found it quite difficult to find words to differentiate myself. So to put it this way, I was at a wedding fair and I got put next to a content creator who's absolutely lovely, and we've worked together before, and the couples were coming over to us. It was just us two in the corner, videographer, content creator next to each other, and
which seems like almost very similar as putting 2 photographers next to each other, isn't it? Yeah.
And like there were times where we would both talk into the couples together. And then, so there was one point where I was like, oh, you should, couple was chatting to her and telling what she does. And then she was like, oh, but you can also get video as well. And I was like, yeah, so with video, you obviously get like professionally captured on cameras. You get your ceremony and speeches, drone footage, that kind of thing. And it's put nicely into like a film for you. And the couple, oh yeah, that's good and all that lot. And then when they left, the content creator was like, all the things you just said, I do. I make the highlights film, I do the drone, the ceremony and speeches are captured now. And I was like, so how do I market myself without saying, oh, I'll shoot it on a nice camera?
Yeah.
It's really hard now to be like, this is why you should book a videographer over content creator.
So again, it's almost like, I think this is something we touched on back in episode 50, isn't it? When we talked about where the industry was going to be in 5 years' time, and you said that you thought video and content creators merge. But that's almost happening already. That particularly if you're trying to get into videography, if you are beginner experienced, it's going to be really hard. So you're basically going to almost be a content creator with a basic SLR and a kit lens, and that segue into almost being more cinema is going to come as you establish.
Yeah, it is interesting.
Oh, that's an interesting chat. I'm glad to ask that question now. So I'm back up. What you got for me?
All right, so this one's about destination weddings.
Okay.
Obviously, we've chatted at length on this podcast about how like destination weddings are kind of seen as the goal, and they don't need to be. And you'd be quite happy just filming weddings for people that are your people.
Yes.
And that's your kind of thing, right? If you had a sudden big wave of destination wedding inquiries, and let's say 1 month you just get loads of destination inquiries, you book them all in, and for some reason unplanned you've got like 5 to 10 this year. Are you standing your ground and turning them down, or are you pivoting and being like, maybe I could become this destination wedding videographer? What I'm trying to say, I guess, is it, if it came to you, would you take it? Yeah. Okay.
I think I've always never. Maybe this is kind of a similar answer to kind of your video content thing. I've never actively marketed towards destinations. I've done 1, 2. Both of them I've loved. I've loved the things that destinations bring is you naturally get closer to the couple because there's more to chat about in logistics as well as the day.
Yeah.
I particularly have never been someone who, I love to travel, I love to go on holiday, but do I love to work abroad? I like to get home to my family in the evening.
Yeah.
So I've never taken jobs purely on the place. It's always been based on the people.
Yeah.
Same as I've only taken a job in this country based on, or again, as time's gone on, definitely, there have been definitely times in the past where I've gone, I really want to get into that venue.
Yeah, of course, you do it. Yeah.
And it's always sometimes fallen short.
Yeah.
So I think particularly for where I am now, if a couple approached me who were 100% my vibe that I wanted to shoot their wedding regardless of if it was down the road from me or it was in another country. I would want to do it.
Yeah.
But I would only do it for the same price that I would do it in this country plus the travel on top. So I wouldn't do it I wouldn't lose out by doing it.
Yeah.
I think the fact that I only probably do 25 to 30 now wouldn't mean that it's almost even a time issue. Of I could do 2 jobs here because I try not to do that much anyway. But I'm still not sure that I would massively then market myself as a destination photographer. I think because we've spoken about this at length about my work, is I don't do a very good job sometimes of selling the venues in my couple shots or in those things. I do details, I do establishing shots, but I don't have that portrait of the couple walking in the grass with the lovely house in the background because the people interest me more than the house. Do you know what I mean? Or they're 2 separate things. I don't think they're always necessarily one of the same. So, I think I definitely would take them. I think I would still, even regardless, in the same way over here, I have a limit as to how much I can take on at a certain venue or how much in general. That if I got to the point where I was leaving the country 2-3 times in a month, that would be to a point where I couldn't do any more. But if all of a sudden a trend of going abroad for weddings and my style kind of came into vogue and I started to get those things, I would do them.
So you could say it's like more like the effort of having to like transition to marketing yourself as destination when you're sort of not that bothered. If that makes sense. Why market it and put a destination wedding page when you wouldn't be happier?
Because I think this is sometimes the problem which I've spoken to other photographers about, is that the problem in the end is they end up almost getting too popular in that one place. So for example, I went to Spain to a certain hotel, shot a cracking wedding there for a British couple and then blogged the wedding. Most of the time then I've seen it happen with a lot of other photographers, they end up going back to the same damn hotel shooting for British couples in the same place. And I still think after the 3rd, 4th, 5th time, it's still the same as you shoot in the local venue down the road. You still fall into the same trap routine, the same coordinators, the same things. It's just in a very lovely place with nice weather and a lot longer commute home. So I think in some ways there's that to label yourself as blanket destination is one thing, but almost to allow yourself to get pigeonholed doesn't make you any better than the guy that's just shooting the venue down the road. So I think for those reasons that I would, and actively I've even thought about show. I've never blogged the wedding that I did, the most recent destination that I did, which was still 3 years ago. I've still never blogged it. Where you saw, I had some of the portraits from the cliffs in that are in my portfolio thing. We were at a wedding fair, weren't we, a while ago? And you're like, how come I've never seen these? They're amazing. And it's like, and I've maybe almost been hesitant to post them as to what it might lead to. But I think that I'm at a place now over the last couple of years in my business that I'm happy with what I'm charging. I'm happy with the numbers that I'm doing. That this makes me, the way that I'm running my business now makes me more susceptible to destination than ever. Because it wouldn't be when I was having to do 40 weddings a year, it shut off that whole week or that whole weekend.
But now you can afford to take a weekend and do it.
To charge what I charge now plus accommodation plus travel. If a couple was willing to pay that to have me, I'd go.
When you shot that wedding in Malta, I was like, oh, the photos are going to come online soon. And like, I think you posted like one thing on Instagram.
I did like a preview, same as I would for a wedding here.
And then like, just
didn't.
Nothing. And it's, and that, I guess that's, your desire for them.
And it doesn't make me better than anybody else. I'm not trying to say that I'm not fussed about destination and loads of people chase it. People should shoot the weddings they want to for the reasons that they want to shoot them for. And if you love the idea of being out the country 20 times a year shooting weddings, then that's really, really great for you. But it's never a model, which I feel like once you jump into that, some people then it becomes their whole identity. And it's really easy to then keep marketing yourself as a destination videographer, and then your local market suffers.
But then you forget why as well. Because it has to be, like, one of my rules is it kind of has to be somewhere that I want to go. Like, obviously I'm shooting at the same venue in Lake Como twice this year, but I loved it there. Like, I really want to go back.
But after these two, after you've done 3 there, you might feel differently.
I probably wouldn't go back unless there was a chance to bring Kate and baby over. Which there wasn't this time. So
And I think it's that. As I always think is that destination. I think it comes with a lot of connotations and expectations and the rest of it. Where I think the longer I'm doing this, realise that I just like a wedding, and I just like it's always about a cool couple with a cool story to be told. And I'd like to think that I can do that wherever. And also I think people always think destinations are hot places. where like the idea of going somewhere really freaking cold and doing a wedding, like the idea of going to Iceland to do that, like, or a city, like the idea of wandering, like New York, I think would be the goal. Like maybe not at the moment, like the States at the moment, I think, and even trying to navigate the paperwork and the visas, the anxiety that would give me going through US customs with my kit is 100% not worth it. But I think if you sort of still said to me kind of what would be like the pinnacle for you, it maybe wouldn't be a wedding by the seaside here, like to take a really cool couple on like a wander through New York, like photographs outside of neons in the streets and those things, that creatively would massively excite
San Francisco would be sick as well, like all the hills and buildings in San Francisco,
or even like Barcelona. I've never been, but the idea of a city on the sea, it kind of speaks to a lot of things that I like to shoot anyway. Good light because it's away. Like those sorts of things. It's those things that would excite me about a wedding, not the fact that I get to go. I can be a destination wedding photographer. Okay, this is a funny one. I thought of this one later and I added it to my list. Does it make you angry / salty that the rates for photography are generally higher than video, considering the amount of kit that you need over us and the amount of time the edit takes over us?
Yes, a little bit. I don't tend to think about it too much because that's just how business works in a way. I think at the moment there's this real imbalance between like hourly. When you look at photography rates are generally, or a lot of couples spend more on their photographer than they do on their videographer. So not only has then that money been spent extra, but then when you also look at generally hourly, photographers do less hours per wedding than a videographer would do. And then even more so now that AI has come about, a lot of those photographers who are still charging more than videographers are now using Imagine and AI culling software and that kind of thing.
Well, I think even like if you take that aside, that it really startled me when we went up, didn't we, and did the portfolio thing that we were talking about, is that you and Josh were starting to talk about song usage at some point, and like he mentioned, I don't, music bed subscriptions like £700-800 a year, and I was like, what? Like in my head, I was like, shut the front. Like there's nothing in my business apart from if I broke a camera. That there's no subscription that I have that would cost me anywhere near that.
Amount of money,
like my pick time is half that, less than half that for the unlimited. Like because I take pictures, as long as I have my Adobe subscription to edit them, something to store them, and then like my thing to host them, I don't have to worry about the level of storage that you guys have to pay for. Again, a subscription like that, especially to be able to license music. And you kind of think, well, if your rates are slightly lower, you're doing more work, and your outgoings to run that business are a lot more. I just don't understand what anyone's like. I might switch to video. Like you've really got to believe in moving image, haven't you?
So our expense, if you look at pre-wedding day, our expenses, like for the most part, there are people who obviously just do handheld camera lens, that kind of thing, and it's similar to the gear that you would take for photography. But then we have to bring our tripods. Like for good dance floor stuff, a lot of people bring light stands and lights. Like there's a lot of audio equipment, like you say, storage. Like my weddings are 500-600 gigabytes per wedding. So what, like the amount of SSDs I've got, and even I'm thinking like
my outgoings this year obviously increased with now that I'm shooting more film. To go and have to buy film. Like orders of, 200-300 quid come out my account sort of monthly to the film shop, and then obviously again for getting it developed. And at the moment, I'm kind of like, I'm loving shooting and the rest of it, but like I'm spending more money like on this stuff than I ever have. But then when you look at that, say when I heard that and was like, oh shit, that's something as a photographer I'd never considered. That you think, well, and that's if you only subscribe to one music place as well. Then if you're looking at buying sort of like, like add-on things and other bits or, like transition or whatever, like the realms that you can go into for needing this kit and the rest of it, like you're spending, like say, thousands of pounds on just subscriptions or software stuff alone.
Well, I think there's so that's the negative way of thinking about it. And like, don't get me wrong, like, I chat to videographers about that kind of thing a lot, but I think if you look at it kind of objectively, there's three different factors in play. The first is the mature category of business, right? Photography is a mature category, and so it's had more time to become popular, become the thing, that kind of, right? And so photography's been going since like the weddings, like 50 years of weddings have probably been shot on photography at this point, whereas video hasn't really had that level yet. So there is a little bit of that. it kind of relates back to gender aside, like when you look at the pay gap between like men's football and female women's football. But men's football has had time to mature and grow in popularity. And that I
still think as well is that fine line between people still consider a photographer almost an essential, and where video is still very much seen as a nice to have or a luxury. In a wedding.
So I think there's a little bit of that. There's a little bit of like photography is in some ways more visible, and so like you said, that's going to be my number two. Is that a lot of people still see photography as more important, and obviously the importance of something is going to change the value that you put on it and how much you pay for it, right? And the reason for that is we still have parents that probably only got their wedding photographed properly, but didn't get their wedding filmed
with the camcorder. They didn't have a videographer.
And so you've grown up with these people who are parents now, got their weddings photographed. You've probably seen their album and everything like that. Whereas like maybe down the line in the future, when like Gen Z, Gen A are getting married, their parents also had these really good quality wedding films, and now that's what they're afterwards, or that's what they're putting more
they're almost there. Well, what if you could have it move and hear them? Why wouldn't you?
And the third thing that I've got is I think it's kind of skewed a little bit because of the people that, you know, if you're as enthusiastic and passionate as we are, then you look at people who are better than you or on the same level as you, and that, you know, photographers, like you genuinely look at people who are charging more than you, but to see what they're doing and things like that. I found, particularly last year, I was probably more expensive than most of the photographers I worked with last year. So
maybe you are breaking again that norm of that you're starting to feel that maybe that you've developed a style or kind of systems that are kind of unique in the clients you offer, or people, because you are that luxury, it's almost deeming to go, well, no, I am worth this. And if people are going, well, it's nice to have, then you want to make sure that like you are a little bit more of that, like you're that ripe fruit, or you're not just I'll just add you on because you're cheap. I'll make money to find for you because you're worth it.
Like it could be a target audience thing. You know, if you're targeting rich couples who want that really like editorial, I want to be made to look as good as I possibly can, they're probably going to prefer photography because it can be manipulated more, can make them, you know, they can post that on Instagram and that kind of a bit Imogen does. Jen Phil. No, so I think it's a target audience thing as well, maybe, and that's why that I've been working with people who are perhaps a little bit more expensive.
Or maybe the shift is happening.
Maybe it is.
Maybe it is that. And again, I know there's probably a lot of photographers that would get really uptight about that and love to think that they're in the more noble profession, earning more than the videographer. But, you know, having that probably in some of my you know, a chunk of my closest peers in this industry do video more than photo, is that I look at the hours that you guys spend doing an edit, or the hours, and that's even, again, I haven't used Imagine for over a year now. That even me doing, you know, editing my images in Lightroom and you working on your film as is, plus all those subscriptions, it's like, even if me and you charge the same, by the time we got to the wedding, you'd have forked out a lot more money. Like your price per job, your outgoings per job are a lot higher than mine.
Outgoings per job, the hourly rate, that kind of thing. But I just don't think, maybe it's just an industry thing, the value isn't there compared to, because obviously film, or the way we make film, is taken from film where there's unlimited budget to burn on cameras.
Right? I see, when you think about the budgets that like Netflix or like movie houses have to produce movies, and I know obviously, like, let's say you're just a guy with a camera, but say you're 2 people or 3 people at a wedding, you know, with 1 and 2 cameras each, you're looking at sets, you know, which I talk about locations and like thousands of, but if you scale that all the way back, still though,
our stuff is shrunken versions of what the film industry has.
It's still that though, isn't it? Compared to, you know, the photographer, whether you're, you know, a celebrity like photographer that you might have, you know, like someone wrangling your data, someone doing the tethered screen bit, you're still a much smaller crew than a film crew though.
It's the same gear.
And the money is there. So I kind of think in some ways that if that shift comes, that would be a good thing. Like I think it almost needs to shift, doesn't it? In order to kind of make things fairer. I
think it's probably happening, but it'll be interesting to see, going back to the last question about how content creators bring up or down the value of either videographers and photographers, to be honest.
Which I think either, again, it will work though, in either that content creators will realise in the same way that we went through it with photography, where there were photographers out there and probably still are doing 80, 100 weddings a year because they felt they needed to make an income, that when you're going to get a lot of content creators that particularly are trying to go at it full time, it's not just that, this is nice on the weekend.
Yeah.
Which is still a real common thing that a lot of older people ask wedding photographers. What do you do in the weeks then, mate?
Yeah.
And almost it was grown out of a tradition of people that always did it on the side.
Yeah.
That now it's become a pretty high earning, good full time job to have for a lot of people.
I get that for the winter as well. I get people going, "Oh, what have you been up to? No weddings in winter, is there?"
Yeah.
It's like, "Oh no, I haven't done a wedding in probably 3 months now." "Oh, so you've just been sat around?" "Well, no, I've been editing all the time."
There's stuff to do. Or there's other things to get to. And maybe, again, content creation just needs to go through that same process. So in the end, it will, as those people start to realise that even though they've got relatively low outgoings, if they want to start using music that isn't on Instagram to deliver those films, they've got to do these big expensive things. Or, do you know what, I'm burning for an iPhone at a rate of knots because I broke 2 at weddings last year or whatever, then that cost is still there.
Yeah.
That in the end, almost, you might actually help each other lift things.
Yeah. And I think it's about, I've noticed this recently about the expenditures, the subscriptions, they're getting ridiculous. And I've mentioned it in a previous podcast, and I'm not planning on selling it anytime soon, but I've made my own CRM.
Yeah.
I'm working on making my own delivery system, and I'm trying to even that gap so that the hourly rate gets better. If I make my own delivery system, I'm in charge of when that gets deleted and how much I'm paying for it. And
also, if you're paying ludicrous money for storage anyway, it might as well be in storage that the couple can access it, as well as you just having it for your archive.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah, I'd have it for myself. So, there are obviously things that you can do, but it does irk me a little bit. But also, it is literally just how economics works or how business works, I guess, in a way.
I just saw it as an outsider of this isn't fair. I like to live in a world where I think that everything should be just and make sense. And again, I think I charge a good rate for what I do. I think I honestly do believe I'm worth what I charge.
Yeah.
But if I was then thinking, well, crap, I've got this subscription which is a grand a year, this one which is this. Oh, I don't need to just have 3 cameras. I need to have 4 and 5. I need to have this. Would I still be thinking that what I charge is good? Because my profit margin would be much lower.
Yeah. So, but not to blow smoke up your ass, but I did see a full one of your galleries recently when we did that meet up and that kind of thing. And it's probably the first time in a very long time, or if I've only probably seen less than a handful of your galleries, and every single photo there had value. None of it was guff because it's just, I better take this because it's a wedding.
Yes, yeah.
It had value, and I think
which is the time it takes to make those. Or again, you go back to that idea of we were saying about being lazy in documentary. I think there are a lot of people that literally, as soon as the couple walk past them on their entrance to the room, go break time in it, and walk straight out and sit there until someone physically comes and pokes them and goes, the speeches are starting.
Yeah. Sweet. So should we call it there? I think we've got a few more, haven't we? But we've made a good episode.
I feel like we've ended up with longer answers than we thought.
Yeah.
And seeing as that I've still got a bunch of questions left, and so have you, I think we can definitely save
I've got a lot
this
more questions written
for
down,
a part 2.
But it's been really good to chat about
the fact that we're an hour already
different things.
Nuts.
I know. Yeah. Just from 2 questions each. Is that what we got through?
Yeah, pretty much. That's insane. Have you guys enjoyed it? I think that's the main thing. I feel like we've done a lot of looking at each other and kind of really getting into this. And I've barely looked up at this camera at all. But hopefully there's some of those conversations have been whirring around your head as well, or maybe you've got your own opinions that differ to our opinions about those things.
Let us know if you enjoyed the format and if you enjoyed how we're crisscrossing between different subjects rather than doing an hour and a half on one subject, which the next one will be, and it'll be very interesting. We kind of there's a lot of things we have written down or topics of conversation that we have outside this podcast that we're that's cool, but it doesn't really make a full episode.
That's a lot of it. Some of them just aren't big enough, are they, to be an episode of their own? So this has been nice to kind of have the variation.
Yeah, and address things that are in in other people's minds as well, or little Facebook posts that we've seen. So
and also the fact that I didn't know the questions as well, I think means you probably get a much more raw and honest answer. I think sometimes with things, I kind of sit with them and make the notes and then go, actually, do I think that? And kind of ponder over. Where I think you maybe get a little bit more of a kind of a knee-jerk or an honest answer, or something that kind of comes out much more kind of authentically when you don't know what's coming.
And I feel like that's why we've been talking to each other, because not only are we answering each other's questions, but we're actually genuinely thinking about how we can say this to the other person. Whereas when we got our notes down, we've both read each other's notes, so we're really talking to you guys. But actually, we don't know what we're about to say, each other about to say. So no, it's been good. I've really enjoyed it.
Chris. I enjoyed that. Yeah, so hopefully, if we get some good feedback from you that you guys enjoyed it the same, there'll be a brutally honest answers part 2 coming sometime in the summer.
Will be anyway,
which I think which would be good. So yes.
Amazing. Well, thanks for listening.
Thanks for watching.
And we'll see you in the next one.
Yeah, that's good.
cracking episode, good length.